Dad's silent revenge.
They said it was just character building. When I found Tyler barely breathing in that freezer shed, hypothermic and blue-lipped, Roger Caldwell actually laughed. He told me I was being dramatic. They all climbed into their luxury SUVs and drove away while I waited for the ambulance, but they didn't know about my brother Vincent. As the paramedics loaded my son into the ambulance, I made one phone call. Just one. They're heading back to Toronto, I said quietly. Do what you do best. Let me back up and tell you how this whole mess started. I'm Carl Thompson, 62 years old, retired steel mill foreman from Thunder Bay. Worked 35 years at the plant, built a decent life with my hands and my back. My son Tyler married into money, and I thought that might be a good thing. Boy, was I wrong. The Caldwell family cottage in Muskoka wasn't really a cottage. It was this huge, expensive place sitting on 50 acres of prime lakefront property. Roger Caldwell made his fortune in financial consulting, the kind of guy who moves other people's money around and takes a cut. He never built anything real in his life, never got his hands dirty, but he looked down on everyone who did. This particular weekend in December was supposed to be Amy's baptism celebration. Amy's Tyler's 3-month-old daughter, my granddaughter. The most perfect little thing you've ever seen, with Tyler's gentle eyes and that innocent smile that just melts your heart. The baptism was Roger's idea, though I'm pretty sure it was more about appearances than faith. I only came to these family get-togethers for Tyler and Amy. Every time, Tyler would call with that hopeful voice, "Dad, please come. Roger really wants to get to know you better." What he meant was he needed backup. Someone in his corner who saw what was really happening. Roger Caldwell was holding court in the great room when I showed up. Big man, not tall but wide, with the kind of presence that made everyone feel small. His son Nathan stood beside him like a loyal lieutenant. They shared the same cold calculation in their eyes, the same way of measuring everyone's net worth with a glance. "Carl," Roger's voice boomed across the room. "Come have a drink. We're breaking out the good scotch tonight." I walked over slowly. My back always acted up in cold weather, 35 years of heavy lifting taking its toll. "Thanks, Roger. Don't mind if I do. Tyler here was just telling us about his promotion." Roger continued, swirling amber liquid in crystal that probably cost more than my monthly pension. "A Stitch-It manager at the hardware store. Isn't that something?" The way he said it made honest work sound pathetic. My son had turned that Thunder Bay store into the highest performing location in the chain, but to Roger, he'd always be the blue-collar kid who somehow convinced Michelle to marry him. "Tyler's done great work," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Doubled the store's revenue in 3 years." Roger waved his hand like he was swatting a fly. "Moving inventory isn't real business, Carl. Real business is about vision, about understanding markets and capital flow." He looked at Tyler with something like pity. "Maybe someday you'll understand that." Tyler just nodded and smiled, but I saw his jaw tighten. I saw the way his hand trembled slightly as he lifted his drink. This wasn't the confident young man I'd raised. This was someone being slowly broken down, piece by piece. Michelle appeared at Tyler's side, slipping her arm through his. For a moment, I thought she might defend her husband. Instead, she said, "Daddy's right, honey. You should think bigger. Maybe Nathan could mentor you." Nathan smirked. He was 35, same as Tyler, but there the similarity ended. Where my son had earned everything through sweat and determination, Nathan had coasted on family money his whole life. His greatest achievement was a business degree he'd bought with Daddy's donations. "Sure," Nathan said. "I could teach you about real wealth building, if you can keep up." The laughter that followed was sharp, like broken glass. I wasn't part of it, and neither was Tyler. That night, sitting on the deck watching Tyler stare out at the frozen lake, I knew something had to give. The next morning brought trouble. Weather reports warned of a massive blizzard system moving in, but Roger brushed it off. "We've got generators and supplies for weeks." What's a little snow to men like us? By noon, the first flakes were falling. By 3 p.m., you couldn't see the lake anymore. The wind howled like something alive and hungry. Roger seemed energized by it, making jokes about Tyler's weather concerns. "City boys scared of a little snow," he said. "Maybe he should wait in the tool shed until it passes. Build some character." Nathan laughed. "That's not a bad idea. Separate the men from the boys." "Stop it," I said. "That's enough." Roger's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me, Carl. Did you say something?" I said, "That's enough. Leave the boy alone." The room went quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. Roger stood slowly, using his bulk to try and intimidate me. "You're a guest in my home, Carl. You do well to remember that. And Tyler's your son-in-law. Family. You do well to remember that." We stared at each other across that expensive living room. Roger was used to intimidating people with his money and connections. But I'd spent 35 years managing union workers and dealing with plant owners who thought they could push people around. I'd faced down plenty of bullies in my time. Finally, Roger smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Cold as ice. You're right, Carl. Family is important. In fact, let's have some family bonding time. Nathan, take Tyler out to the generator shed. Show him how real men handle emergencies. Tyler stood up. I can check the generator. No need for you, Carl, Roger said firmly. Nathan will take care of it. You and I can discuss family values. Something felt wrong about this whole thing, but Tyler was already pulling on his coat, following Nathan into the blinding white chaos outside. Roger kept me occupied with meaningless small talk, refilling my drink, asking about retirement plans, but I kept glancing at the door, checking my watch. 30 minutes passed, then 45, then a whole hour. They're taking too long, I said. Relax, they're having some quality father-son time. I stood up, I'm checking on them. Sit down, Carl, I'm checking on my son. I pushed through the back door into a wall of wind and snow. The cold hit like a punch to the face, even through my heavy coat. I could barely see 3 feet ahead, but I knew the general direction and started walking through that mess. It took me 15 minutes to find the shed through the storm. The wind was so strong I could hardly stay on my feet. When I reached the door, I found it locked from the outside. A heavy padlock that definitely wasn't there yesterday. I pounded on the door with my fists. Tyler, can you hear me? A weak voice came from inside, trembling with cold. Dad, I'm here. They locked me in. It's so cold. I can't feel my hands. I pulled at that lock with everything I had, but it wouldn't budge. The shed wasn't heated. In this weather, with temperatures dropping to -25, with wind chill, hypothermia could kill a man within hours. Hold on, son. I'm getting you out of there. I fought my way back to the cottage through the storm. Snow getting in my eyes, wind trying to knock me down every step. When I burst through the door covered in snow from head to toe, Roger and Nathan were sitting calmly by the fire. Michelle was there too, staring at nothing with this blank look on her face. Where's the key? I demanded. Roger raised an eyebrow like he didn't know what I was talking about. Key to what? Don't play games with me. My son's locked in that shed. He's freezing to death. Nathan actually laughed. It's just a joke, old man. A little cold builds character. He could die out there. Drama queen, Roger said, taking another sip of his expensive scotch. Just like his father. We'll let him out when he learns his lesson. I looked straight at Michelle. Your husband is in danger. Doesn't that mean anything to you? She wouldn't even look at me, just kept staring at the fire. Daddy knows what he's doing. That's when I understood the whole thing. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment prank. They'd planned this, calculated it. They wanted to break Tyler, to remind him of his place in their little hierarchy. The baby must have threatened them somehow. Maybe they were afraid Tyler would start asserting himself as a father. I pulled out my phone, no signal. The storm had knocked out the cell towers. The landline, I said. Roger's smile got wider, like he was enjoying this. Disconnected it yesterday. Didn't want any interruptions during our family time. I didn't waste any more words on these people. I went straight to the garage, found a pair of bolt cutters, and fought my way back through that nightmare storm. My fingers were so cold I could barely work the cutters, but I kept at it until that lock snapped. When I finally got the door open, Tyler was curled up in the corner like a hurt animal, barely conscious. His lips were blue. His breathing was so shallow I thought I'd lost him. I stripped off my coat and wrapped it around him, then half carried, half dragged him back to the cottage. The Caldwells just watched in silence as I laid him by the fire, rubbing his hands trying to get some warmth back into him. Only when I pulled out my satellite phone did Roger's expression change. That smug look disappeared real quick. 911. I need an ambulance. Life-threatening hypothermia. The dispatcher said it would be tough to get anyone through in the storm, but they'd try their best. They told me to keep him warm, monitor his breathing, watch for signs his heart might stop. I did everything they said while the people who'd tried to kill him sat there watching like it was some kind of entertainment. The ambulance finally showed up after 3 hours, using snowmobiles for the last kilometer because the roads were impassable. The paramedics worked on Tyler for 20 minutes before they could even move him, checking his vitals, getting IVs started. He's going to make it, one of them told me. You found him just in time. Another hour and we'd be having a very different conversation. As they carried Tyler out to the snowmobile, I heard Nathan mutter to his father, "This is ridiculous. It was just a prank." I stopped dead in my tracks. I turned around. I looked at Roger Caldwell's smug face, at the complete lack of remorse in his eyes. Then I pulled out my phone and made the most important call of my life. "Vincent," I said quietly, stepping away from the group. "It's Carl." Silence on the other end, then my brother's voice, rough from sleep. "Carl, do you know what time it is? They tried to kill Tyler. The Caldwells locked him in a freezer shed during a blizzard." Left him to die because they thought it was funny. More silence. I could hear Vincent breathing. Could almost hear his mind working. My brother had spent 30 years as a union lawyer, fighting corporate corruption and protecting workers' rights. He'd put away executives who'd stolen pensions, politicians who'd sold out labor unions, financial criminals who'd robbed retirement funds. Where are they now? Vincent asked. Heading back to Toronto once the road's clear. I understand. You focus on Tyler. I'll handle the rest. The drive to Huntsville Hospital took 2 hours in those storm conditions. I rode in the ambulance, holding Tyler's hand the whole way, watching the monitors, listening to his labored breathing. The paramedics had him wrapped in thermal blankets, but his body temperature was still dangerously low. My phone buzzed with a text from Vincent. On it, "You focus on Tyler." Tyler was admitted straight to the ICU. The doctor said it was severe hypothermia with cardiac stress, but he'd live. He needed at least a week of monitoring, but he was going to recover. I sat in that hard plastic chair next to his bed and watched him sleep, his face pale but breathing steady. When Tyler woke up the next afternoon, his first words were, "The baby. Is Amy okay?" I'd forgotten all about it. In the chaos, I'd completely forgotten about the stress this might put on Michelle and the new baby. "Michelle should be checked," Tyler mumbled through cracked lips. "Please, Dad." I made the call to the cottage. The nurse who answered told me everyone had packed up and left that morning as soon as the roads cleared. They hadn't asked about Tyler, hadn't left any message. I didn't tell Tyler that part, not yet. The next 3 days crawled by. I barely left Tyler's side. Nurses brought me coffee and sandwiches that tasted like cardboard. A social worker came to discuss what happened. I gave a full statement to the OP officers who showed up on day 2. "We'll be investigating," the lead officer said. "But I have to warn you, cases like this can get complicated. The Caldwells have serious legal resources." I understood what he meant. What I didn't tell him was that I had resources too. On the 4th day, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Carl, you should turn on the news." Vincent's voice was calm, controlled. I found a TV in the waiting room and flipped to CBC. The anchor was in the middle of breaking news. Toronto financial executive Roger Caldwell arrested in connection with securities fraud and money laundering. Sources say the investigation involves irregularities in retirement fund management dating back over 10 years. The screen showed Roger being led out of his fancy Toronto mansion in handcuffs, his face looking mad as hell. Behind him, Nathan was being escorted to a separate car, looking like a scared kid who'd just been caught stealing candy. My phone buzzed. Text from Vincent. "That's just the beginning. Call when you can talk." I found a quiet corner of the hospital and called my brother back. "How'd you do this so fast?" I asked. Vincent laughed, a sound I hadn't heard in years. "I didn't do anything, Carl. I just made some calls. Reminded certain people about information they'd rather keep buried. What'd you find?" Roger Caldwell didn't build his fortune through legitimate financial consulting. He built it by managing stolen pension funds for organized crime families, Russian mostly, looking to clean money through Canadian investments. He's been doing it for 15 years. Vincent paused, and I could hear him taking a sip of something, probably coffee. But here's the thing. People knew. People in high places, as long as Roger was useful to them, he was protected. But protected people become liabilities when their secrets start coming to light. When certain documents start showing up in journalists' inboxes, when former union lawyers start asking the right questions. This wasn't just about Tyler. Oh, it was definitely about Tyler. Your son gave me the excuse I needed. The Caldwell family crossed a line when they hurt him. They made it personal. And personal's always the best motivation for this kind of work. Over the next week, it was like watching dominoes fall. Every day brought new revelations. Journalists who'd been investigating Roger for years suddenly found sources willing to talk. Financial records that had been sealed tight somehow found their way to reporters' desks. Former employees came forward with stories of intimidation and fraud they'd been too scared to tell before. Nathan wasn't just riding Daddy's coattails either. Turns out he'd been actively involved in the money laundering operation, using his party boy lifestyle as cover for meetings with criminal contacts. Several women came forward with assault allegations that had been buried through payoffs and legal threats. Michelle filed for divorce within days of her father's arrest, not because she suddenly found some backbone to support Tyler, but to protect whatever assets she could from the coming legal storm. When those divorce papers became public, they showed exactly what the family really thought about my son. Internal emails revealed they'd been planning to push Tyler completely out of Amy's life, to eventually replace him with someone more suitable to their social status. One email from Roger to Michelle was particularly clear. The problem with your husband is he doesn't understand his place. He needs constant reminding that he exists at our pleasure. The shed incident should help drive that point home. The shed incident. They'd planned the whole thing in advance. It wasn't some spontaneous moment of cruelty. It was calculated, deliberate torture. Tyler was released from the hospital after a week. I drove him back to Thunder Bay, to my small house where he'd grown up. He didn't say much during the trip, just stared out at the snow-covered landscape rolling by. His hands still shook sometimes from the cold damage. When we pulled into my driveway, he finally spoke up. I saw the emails, Dad, all of them. I know the truth now. She never loved me. None of them did. I'm sorry, son. Did you do this? The investigation, the arrests. I thought carefully before answering. I made a phone call to Uncle Vincent, told him what they did to you, and asked him to do what he does best. Tyler was quiet for a long moment, just sitting there in my old pickup truck. Then he nodded slowly. Good. They deserved everything they got. We went inside. I made tea and got a fire going in the old wood stove. Tyler sat in the chair by the window, the same chair his mother used to sit in when she was reading her books, and he didn't move for hours. Just stared out at the bare trees and thought about God knows what. The next few weeks were tough on him. Tyler barely ate, barely spoke. He went through all the legal motions, cooperating with police investigations, meeting with lawyers about the divorce proceedings. Michelle's lawyers initially tried claiming she should get sole custody of Amy, citing Tyler's unstable mental state after the trauma. But once the family crimes became front-page news, that strategy fell apart pretty quick. The divorce was finalized in February. Tyler got full custody of Amy once Roger's assets were frozen for victim restitution. Michelle didn't fight it. She was too busy trying to distance herself from the family name that had become toxic overnight. Roger was denied bail when more evidence kept surfacing. His former associates, the ones he thought were loyal, started lining up to testify against him in exchange for lighter sentences. His whole empire, built on stolen retirement money from working folks, came crashing down like a house of cards. Nathan tried making a run for it. He got as far as Vancouver Airport before they grabbed him trying to board a flight to Dubai with a suitcase full of cash. The charges against him kept expanding based on testimony from multiple women who'd finally found the courage to speak up once the family lost their power to intimidate people. I watched all these developments with a strange kind of calm. I wasn't jumping up and down celebrating or anything. I just felt like the world was finally working the way it was supposed to work. Justice that had been delayed for years was finally getting served. One afternoon in March, I heard a car pull into my driveway. Tyler got out slowly, carefully. He'd been in Toronto for the custody transfer, and in his arms was a small bundle wrapped in a pink blanket. Dad, he said, walking up to my front door, I'd like you to meet your granddaughter, Amy. I walked over and looked down at the tiniest, most perfect face I'd ever seen. She had Tyler's gentle eyes, his kind expression. Hello, Amy, I said softly. Welcome home, sweetheart. We went inside. Tyler put Amy in the old bassinet that had held him when he was a baby, the same one my wife and I had used 32 years ago. I made tea while Tyler sat by the fire, just watching his daughter sleep. I've been thinking, Tyler said after a while, about everything that happened. I'm not angry at you, Dad, for calling Uncle Vincent, for everything that happened to the Caldwells. I didn't know it would go as far as it did, I admitted. They deserved every bit of it, all of it. They would have killed me that night if you hadn't found me. Left me to freeze to death because they thought it was funny. He paused, bouncing Amy gently when she started to fuss. But that's not what I've been thinking about the most. What then? I've been thinking about why I stayed so long, why I let them treat me that way, why I kept trying to earn approval that was never going to come. I waited for him to work through whatever he needed to say. I think I was scared. Scared that if I stood up for myself, I'd lose everything. Michelle, the job, the whole family setup, I thought I needed them to have a good life. He looked at me with those honest eyes of his. But I didn't need them. I just needed to remember who I was, where I came from. You came from Thunder Bay, I said. From a family that didn't have much money, but had plenty of love. From a mother who taught you to be kind, and a father who taught you that honest work has real dignity. I forgot that somewhere along the way. It's easy to forget when people are constantly telling you you're not good enough, that you don't measure up. Tyler stood up and walked to the window. Spring was starting to show up. You could see patches of brown grass where the snow had melted, and I could hear water dripping from the eaves. I want to come back, he said. Back to Thunder Bay, back to the hardware store, if they'll have me. I want Amy to grow up here where I grew up. I want her to know her grandfather. The store would be lucky to have you back. And so would I. 6 months later, I was standing on the shore of Lake Superior, holding Amy in my arms. The water was calm as glass, reflecting the golden evening light. Tyler was setting up our fishing gear nearby, getting ready for what had become our weekly tradition. You know, Amy, I said softly, your father never liked fishing when he was young. Couldn't stand putting worms on the hooks. I heard that, Tyler called over. And for the record, I still don't like the worm part. I laughed, some things never change, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. We fished until the sun went down, not catching much, not really caring. Amy slept peacefully in her carrier, completely oblivious to the water and trees and quiet conversation between her father and grandfather. Just a perfect evening with my family. On the drive home, Tyler asked, "Have you talked to Uncle Vincent lately last week? He's doing good." Says retirement in Nova Scotia beats dealing with Toronto politics. Think he'll ever come visit, maybe, when things settle down completely. There are still trials going on. The Caldwell case had gotten bigger than any of us expected. Roger's cooperation with organized crime had opened up connections that stretched across multiple countries. Joint Canadian-American task forces were handling it now, following money trails that went back decades. Roger would spend the rest of his life in prison. Nathan would be eligible for parole in 12 years if he behaved himself. The family name was completely destroyed, their wealth redistributed to the people they'd robbed over the years. Do you think they ever think about that night? Tyler asked about what they did to me, probably, but not with any real remorse. Men like Roger Caldwell don't feel sorry for what they do. They just get mad about getting caught. We drove the rest of the way in comfortable silence. Amy stirred in her car seat a couple times, making those little baby sounds that just melt your heart. "I think I understand now," Tyler said as we pulled into my driveway, "why you always told me that character matters more than success. Why you never let me take the easy way out even when other kids got to. Your mother and I just wanted you to be a good man. Not necessarily a successful one in terms of money and status, just a good one. I hope I can do the same for Amy, you will. I've never had any doubt about that." We went inside where it was warm, where the walls were covered with books and family pictures and memories of a good life lived honestly. This is my life now. Not what I'd planned when I was younger, but a good life all the same. A life of small moments and quiet love and doing the right thing even when it's not easy. The Caldwells thought they were untouchable. They thought a retired steel worker from Thunder Bay was beneath their notice. They thought they could lock a man in a freezing shed and laugh about it over expensive scotch. They were wrong. And that's how one phone call brought down their whole empire. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted my son to know that his father would always protect him. Always. Sometimes the most powerful thing a father can do isn't what he says to his son, but what he's willing to do for him when the chips are down. Real strength isn't about having money or connections, it's about knowing that someone will always have your back no matter what.